Hi there, let's get started learning about strokes and the stroke panel. The stroke panels were right over there in that icon. If you don't see it there, you can always go to Windows and choose stroke from there or use a shortcut. You can pull out this window, move it around by holding anywhere on this gray area. If you don't see all the options, then you can go to here and choose show options. Otherwise, you can press on the small 2 arrow thing right there next to the stroke, and that will do the same thing. So you can press it and every time it will expose more, or you can double click anywhere on this gray area or on the name of the panel, and I'll do the same thing. We'll collapse it or show all the options. Then with these 2 triangles, you can collapse this thing here like that, and you can join it to any other tool option there or move it around any way you want. And of course, this X button will close this window totally. The stroke panel is there for any object, any element, any line, anything which has a stroke. If it doesn't have a stroke, we'll just show it here. Then all the options here will be grayed out. So if I uncheck that with no option, and you can see there's no option here in the stroke panel other than this width option which you have. So here you'll be able to control so many of these stroke options. I'm just adding a stroke so we can see and get going here. You can change the color of the stroke from the panel here, or whether it's from down there, and just choose anyone. So the first option here is the weight. You've got it under here, so here it's under stroke, but here will be under weight. By the way, you can also press on this panel here and you'll have the stroke under there as well. So anything which you see which has dots underneath, then you know there's a panel there, like this opacity. You can press on it, you'll get a panel here too. And that's just a side thing. So under weight, you can change the thickness of the stroke. You can either choose from here any of these preset amounts, or you can use these up or down arrows here to add or subtract. You can also even type it in right here. So if you have a value you want to type it in, as you can see here, it's now in points, but you can do it in anything. So I'm doing 30 millimeters and it will convert it to points straight away. That's cool. Otherwise, you can use your up or down arrows on the keyboard to add by 1 point at a time, or with shift and the arrow keys to add or minus by 10 points at a time. Or you can also just scroll up or down with your mouse. Here you've got the cap, so I shouldn't actually demonstrate on this. Let's just take a line here. You can choose here the cap. The cap is the end point of the line. So as you can see now, I'm zooming up. This is a straight, blunt end of a line right by the anchor point. It doesn't end in any neat or nice way. Just ends flat where the anchor points end. You can change the cap to make it rounded, so you can get this nice round end to the line. Or you can make this also square, but it gives it a nicer look or a nicer feel that it doesn't end like just bluntly by the end of the anchor point. The corner here is for the corner of the element, so you can choose the straight corner or this rounded one, so it'll be a nice rounded corner, or a bevel that will make it like a straight corner. You can notice that only when I choose this corner option, the straight corner, then I have another option here, limit. What that does is, as you can see, this has like quite a spike down there, and the reason why that is because that these 2 lines actually continue as it is until it like ends off there. So let's just make this angle even stronger. So it could be a triangle or anything. So as you can see, it ended there. Suddenly this line like broke off. So these 2 now on a very steep point, so we'll carry on for far away until they meet each other. That's what the limit is for. So I'm just putting the limit very high so you can see. So wow, that went fast. So you can see this is where the last anchor point ended of these 2 lines, or this triangle or whatever. These 2 lines are continuing all the way because it's on the steep angle until the end. So it's a very long spike. For that, you have this limit where you can limit it that at a certain point you can say, wow, this is going on way too long. That just ends it there, even though the lines didn't join together. So you can see that it ended right there. Then we've got here line stroke. So this will only be available if it's a closed shape. If it's a straight open object, then it won't be available. What this line stroke does is it chooses between aligning the stroke when you expand it to go towards the inside or towards the outside. So let's just show now that if I'm making it very thick, you can see it's expanding now currently on both sides. So it's becoming thicker on both sides of the stroke. You could choose only on the inside. So now this whole thing went into the inside, or only on the outside. That'll make it a lot bigger. But on an open path, there is no inside or outside. That's why this option is unavailable. We've got here the next option, a dashed line. So you can choose if to make this a dashed line. It looks quite cool. Here you have a dash. How much will the dash be? So you can change any amount here. By default, the next one will be the same amount of a gap because you didn't put in any gap, but you could choose to give a certain amount of gap. So you can change to make it bigger gap or smaller. Then you can do a dash again. So you can go on like that, however much, and you can create these like interesting lines and patterns. This option here is just between making it a straight according to, so this option is exactly according to how it's supposed to be. So as you can see, one corner is like this, one corner is like that. But if you choose this corner, then it adjusts itself around the corners just to give it this extra nicer look. So I think you'll see it more on like a star or something if I choose this dashed line. So as you can see, these corners don't look so good, but once you do it with that, then it makes all the corners look the same. You could get some very cool effects. I'm just using this curvature tool. So you've got this element, then you can choose a round cap and just add more spacing here. So you can make these cool looking like balloon type effects. It's quite cool. You can make it even just like round balls, round on a string. You can even carry on this line. If you just take the curvature tool, you can continue this line because it's a live shape. So you can have fun making all tons of effects. This is also how we will create arrowheads. So you can choose from these options. You can create here any of these. You have quite a big variety, some weird and unusual ones. You can choose also an end for the arrow from there. So if you change your mind, you can swap these arrows here in this double arrowed icon thing, and then it will swap the sides around. I don't think there is a way to add any more arrows besides for the default ones that there is here. If you know of any way, you can let me know in the comments below. But otherwise, you can always use the brushes panel and you can get from there loads more of arrows. Here are whole libraries of arrows and you can choose through them and you can even add your own ones. So to get back here, we have here the scale. That's just the size of the arrow in comparison to the stroke. So you can make it like a very weird looking arrow. You can click this thing here that links it together, so with the tail of the arrow, whatever it's called. So now any changes I do, once I link it together, will be affecting them both. Then we have two options here of aligning the arrowhead. Will it be part of the stroke, or will it be beyond the stroke that will start from the stroke after? So you can choose that, then it will stretch from after the stroke. That's when the line will start. So if you know these like cut along the line or something like that, that's how you would create them. You can hold down shift to make a straight line, and then you choose dash line with this arrowhead somewhere there, the scissors, and you can choose how big to make it. And you can write on top cut along this line or something like that, and that's how you create this. The last and final option here in the stroke panel is a profile. So for any line, you can make it instead of just a plain straight line or with dotted like we said, you can make it have a certain profile to it. So go thick, then small, or anything which you can choose from these profiles here. So as you can see, it's becoming like, it has all these like weird effects to it. You can actually make some pretty cool things from it. You could also add here these things just to flip it across or along. You could add your own profile by creating one of these profiles. You can do that by taking any line, just make a line and give it some stroke. Then you go to this tool, the width tool, and you can create your own profile like that. So you have some interesting weird looking profile. You select it and you go to your profiles, and you'll see this option here available to add to profile. Then you can name it whatever you want, and it will be added to your profile library. So now you can apply it to any other stroke. You just choose the stroke, go to your profile in the stroke panel, and put on this profile which you made. These options are very limited. You can't add a color, you can't make it like a dashed or any of these type of things. So you only have some limited things. You can only use that width tool. I don't think it works with any other tool. You can use your brush panel, and you can choose from your libraries. You have tons of these options there. I think that can help a lot. If you want to delete any profile, you don't have to select anything actually. You can just go to your profile panel and choose this spin icon. If you choose anyone, you can even choose a default profile. If you want to bring back to the default how the profile was originally, you can press this small icon over there. That'll reset the whole thing. What it does is it erases any of the custom profiles that you added and brought in any profiles, any default profiles which you erased. If you want to make sure that your profile doesn't get erased, you can add it always to your Creative Cloud library. So I think that's basically the whole thing there is of the stroke panel. If you check on top, you have here a few options. So here's, as we said, the fill of the shape, the fill of the stroke. And by the way, you can shift click to get this color panel here. And here, as we said, you can get this stroke panel from there. Then you can choose here the stroke, or you can do it with shift on these arrows, also works. And the profile, you have the right there. You've even got here the brushes option. So you have a few brushes from the brush panel. You also have all these options in the properties panel, so in a sense you don't need to take out your stroke panel, and you can save space this way. So just as a tip, if you want to make a colorful dashed line, so one dash is in this color and the other is in that color, a quick way to do that would be to duplicate your shape. So you can press Ctrl Command C and then B to paste behind it. Select the top one and choose from your stroke panel to make it dashed. We can just go for that default one. You can't see that's dashed because there is a behind one as well, and you can change the color for the one behind, and you'll be able to see this dotted line here. So that you can get some of these effects. Sometimes when we scale an object, if we bring this smaller, even if you hold down shift to keep the same proportions, you'll see when you make it very small, then the stroke, it doesn't scale itself, so the stroke keeps the same because you said that it will have a 21 point. If you want to change that, you can go to Edit and Preferences, or in a Mac it will be under Illustrator, Preferences, under General, you'll have the option here to scale the stroke and effect. Once you click on that, any stroke you added or any effect will be scaled down proportionally with the shape. So once I scale the shape down, you can see that it keeps the proportions. So all of a sudden this stroke has gone down a lot because it keeps the same proportions of the shape size. Once you make it big again, it will become large as well, and it will become even bigger than the original size that you set. So I think the original size was 20 points. If you want to make it even bigger, then you can see now the stroke there is 200 because it works according to this shape. So that's very cool to use. The cool thing is, say we have these two arrowheads, let's say, or you made a dashed line even, and let's just make it a round point. Okay, so say we have this interesting looking arrow. If you want to separate these elements, as you can see right now, it's the same part, it's one object. I can't even ungroup it because it's not a group, it's nothing, it's just one line and so on. It's just an effect added to it. You can see by holding down Control Command Y, you see a single line. That's all there is. That's the outline of the shape. Only when you see the other mode, then you can see the shape effects that you added, it will get printed, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to separate this for whichever reason, you can go to Object and Expand Appearance. If it still doesn't work, then you can go to Object and choose Rasterize. That will definitely expand it, and then you can even trace it, so you for sure will get this as each shape of its own. Then you can go expand it there, and then you will have each object on its own. Let's just ungroup it. There you go. Now you can give every single one of these a different color, so you can do some cool stuff with it. And the last and final tip is that you can make a stroke to letters, to writing. So when you have text here, you can actually apply a stroke to it. And as we know, you could make a stroke here and get this looking like however it may be. If you want to apply another stroke, because sometimes you would want to make like a double stroke, let's just take one word. I think that's big enough. And you can make here a stroke, and you want to give it another stroke behind it. So you could always outline the text or expand it, but then it wouldn't be editable anymore as text. There is a way to actually use it still as text and to apply another stroke or many stroke effect. Under the appearance panel over here, or if you don't have it, you can go to Windows and get it down from there. Then you can apply another, either from here, either a new stroke or a new fill, and you can make tons of strokes around it. Just it's important not to choose the text, because if you choose the text, then you wouldn't have the option here to add another stroke. So you have to just choose the text box with the regular selection tool, and then you can add here another stroke. You can even move the stroke to be underneath it all and give the stroke any other color. You can press on this to access the stroke panel within this appearance panel. Sounds we're going very deep here, and you can put any thickness you want here. Then you can add another one underneath that and go here even more. You get the idea. So you can play around and get some very cool effects. So that was the whole stroke panel in one lesson. Just to go over the lesson briefly, when creating any stroke using any tool you want, as long as it has a stroke, you would have these options here on top. So you can choose the stroke panel from there, or otherwise from your properties panel, you can choose it. Or otherwise you can just bring it down from Windows and choose the stroke panel. Here you can change the ends of the stroke, the corner of the stroke, how to align it, if it will be in the inside of the line or the outside. We said that's only for a closed shape. You can give it a dashed line. You can change the arrowheads over here, if to give it an arrowhead or not, the scale, how big this arrowhead will be, and you can change the alignment, if it will be aligned included in the line or not included. In the profile, you can choose any of these profiles or add your own custom made profile, and that's basically the lot. So you could access most of these options from on top, or otherwise from the properties panel, so you don't actually need to go to the stroke panel, but nevertheless you have these options. We'll go over through more stroke options under the brushes panel. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you gained something from this video, only if you gained something, please give a like and subscribe. Also feel free to share any of your comments, ideas, questions, or just anything you want to add or share at the comments below. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.